Hi, everybody. This is Amy,
And this is Nicole.
and here we are on 9 to 5 Nightmares. So, this week, we're again on a very challenging week. So, I think we've got
Yes.
some fans that were banned from games. We've got somebody who was fired from a job after a viral tirade. We've got a lot of things going on, but the one thing that I wanted to focus on first was what's going on in the University of Florida, right? Nicole, that's UF. Um,
Yeah.
in Jacksonville. So here we have a pediatrician, right? And she has been making racist remarks. And they also found out that she's treating children suspected of abuse and taking their race into consideration. So, after they did an investigation, what they found out was that there were instances of families of color being accused of abuse when there was no evidence there, where when you had families of people who were not of color there and clear indications that there was abuse, that
Yeah.
they were not being reported. So it was
Right.
very blatant. And the thing with this kind of behavior is, so this is coming up all in the news. This
Yeah.
person is going to go and try to find a job somewhere else as being a doctor.
She's
And
already done this before. This is her third job. She was also
ah,
investigated in Wisconsin and Alaska. She was investigated and sued for the same exact thing in two other states before being hired by UF Health. And for the record, I went to UF. This is my alma mater. And I couldn't be more disgusted. This
well,
is
and I
not, yeah. Oh my God.
when there is a history of abuse, and this is coming up, right? So if you were to Google this woman's name, you will find all of this information coming up. So if any of those
Yeah.
employers had been running an online screening like we do,
Right.
this would come up and you'd be able to make an informed decision. So,
Yeah.
there's a couple of things. You're exposing your patients to this kind of behavior, number one, right? So you're doing a
Yeah.
disservice to your patients, right? And then you're also really tarnishing your brand, because by not doing your due
Oh
diligence
yeah.
and making sure that known predators, accused predators, are coming into
Right.
the organization as an employee, right? Like we're getting to the point where there is an element of libel here. And by not
Right.
doing due diligence, because all of
Right.
this information is publicly out there. And the
And
fact
for the record, I
of
just want to say this one thing too. Like I'm on the potential donor list. I get phone calls from UF all the time. Do you think after reading this article, I'm gonna give them a penny? Like what, like from a financial perspective, like this is going to have impact on them. From a legal perspective, what you were just talking about, this is
like what
a
happened at Penn
liability.
State, right?
Right,
The
100%.
ramifications of that situation goes on for years and years and years. And you would think,
100%.
you know, the minimal cost of doing online screening versus all of this could mitigate the situation. Like we did.
100%.
Well, do you remember off the top of your head the case study that we did for education, where we were able to calculate out the ROI
Yeah, it
on,
was like a
um,
$116 return to a dollar
yeah, it
for
was
all of the misconduct. Yeah,
ridiculous.
ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
So it's not even a question of like cost or anything, because the cost is so nominal. And that's where it becomes into the point where, eh, I would not be surprised if at somewhere in the future this starts to become regulatory, because the information is there.
Right. Right.
There is an element of due diligence, and when this kind of gross negligence happens, like I really
Yeah.
think this is almost like just so negligent. Um,
Yeah. There
you know,
were in the article that I was reading from the Independent Alligator. By the way, it's a student led. It's like this is the UF student newspaper. These are likely student journalists doing this level of reporting, which by the way, I have
wow.
to commend them. Yeah. Like the article was fantastic. I was almost sick to my stomach reading all of this, but in the article they quoted like welfare workers saying that like the universe, like we feel like the university has been negligent. Like this, why is this woman still here? And it also links back to past, like I said, like when her from her time in like Wisconsin, like they've literally filed lawsuits against the doctor because her medical opinions when misdiagnoses led people to lose custody of their children and people to serve jail time for abuse that never took place and then missing abuse when it did take place. I'm not even a parent and I'm so mad reading this.
Yeah. No, it's just horrible. It's horrible. So let's go back and let's talk about some of the other things that were happening, right? So, we had a person who had this viral tirade against a woman, right?
Yeah,
And I mean, the tirade included the C word, the B word, dumb. Like, we're not talking about things that are gentle here. And it was put out publicly, intentionally put out publicly, right? Now, what I'm not clear on is the relationship of this person to this woman, if there was a working relationship that occurred here. But what wound up happening is this video made their way back to the employer, right? Which is a management consulting firm, and they parted ways with the person because the behavior was so abhorrent. So, do we
yeah.
know if there was a workplace connection? It doesn't really matter, but it would be interesting if
No,
there was a workplace connection.
no, so this was actually at the Green Bay Eagles game, the wild card game that
Oh, so
recently took place.
those were connected. Okay, so I thought these were separate instances. So that commentary happened at the game as a fan at the game. This person
Right, two
saying this
fans
to
at
another
the game.
fan.
Right, 100%. So
Wow.
he starts talking to her. So in NBC News reported this, like he starts talking to her. They start having like kind of like a little bit of a playful like fan banter, like rivals. But then throughout the game, it like increasingly got worse. And what's interesting is I watched the video. The video is already on its own, like ugh, like
So this
yucky,
was just someone
gross.
behaving in public. It got recorded, right? But this is like gross public behavior, right?
Yeah. And what's even worse about it is the woman commented back to NBC News and said, like, he only started de-escalating the situation when he saw that the woman's fiance was recording. And so the stuff that was on camera, which was, like you said, the C word, dumb, the B word, like that was the de-escalation. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So then the video was posted online, and it got back to his company, and his company is a management consulting firm. And they were like, yeah, we can't employ this person. Like, he
Well,
needs to
because
kind of like take a long look at his
yeah,
actions.
if someone's gonna make these choices to behave this way in public,
Right.
right? Those are
Right.
bad choices. Now, I do firmly believe, I don't believe in cancel culture, right?
That's what the CEO or the managing partner of this firm said too. But he was just like, he needs to take some time to think about his actions and how he
Exactly.
treats other people.
Exactly.
Right.
And so my hope for this person would be that they get into anger management training. They really reflect on this. They take the time to do it. And even
Right.
though this is likely going to come up when they get other jobs, that
Yeah.
they can show that they've done the work to
Right.
know how to be appropriate in public, because
Right.
this is the
A
question.
hundred
You're
percent.
bringing somebody into your culture and you're making all these assumptions, right? And
Right.
one of the assumptions that you make without having any data is you go in and you meet with someone and you're assessing how are they conducting themselves publicly. Because
Right.
even though an interview is essentially, a private moment between a number of people, it's really a public moment for you to see how
Right.
you behave professionally, right? But if you go out into a public space and make the choices to behave like this, it's not a far
Yeah.
leap to say that you're going to make potentially similar kinds of choices in another public space. And one of those public spaces being your workplace. So unless
Right.
you can show that you have done the work, you've taken some classes, you've put things
Yeah.
in place to make sure that you don't behave this way, then the onus is on the employer if they find themselves in a situation like go back to the doctor, right? Constant
Right.
repetitive behavior.
Right.
and if
A
you've got a
hundred
history
percent.
of repetitive behavior like this, the chances are that you're going to continue doing this is highly, highly likely. And
Right.
this is what we're here for. And this is why we do
Yeah.
what we do. And I
Right.
don't know about you, but I feel like, a big part of my job day to day, in a small way, is to try to help keep workplaces safe from people who are like, it's almost like serial abusers to a certain extent. Because nobody wants to spend 8 hours, 10 hours a day in a hostile work environment if they can prevent it.
Yeah. And I mean, frankly, like if I was that man's coworkers and I saw that video with him calling that woman a bunch of like dumb, he called her ugly. He was like, you're not even, I don't even know why I'm talking to you. You're too ugly to talk to me. Like if I heard like one of our coworkers or like one of my past coworkers saying that to a woman, I would look at them differently. I wouldn't think that they like could show up and be reasonable with me. I would be thinking about how I talk to them and if I want to be around them or, like that, because that's what, if that is person is capable of doing those things and, doesn't really seem to show remorse, which I'm not saying this guy did or didn't, like, I would totally look differently at that person as that person's coworker. And so I mean, that is why they had to let him go because they needed to give him that space and make sure that the people that do still work there are okay. But like, that's another thing to consider too is like you if you want to have a good culture and a positive culture and a culture of well-being, those are things that you have to think about as being a person and being all of us being people in and outside of the workplace. This isn't
Well,
severance. We don't just forget
exactly.
what happens when we leave at the end of the day.
And I love the fact that, for the first time, we actually have like behavior intelligence and data
Yeah.
that we can look at that can give us an indicator of how somebody may end up behaving in the workplace before
Right.
they join the workplace. And I think it's just so important for all of us that are working in the HR industry to educate ourselves that this is here, that this exists, and start to
Yeah.
put it in place so we're not creating more of these moments, and we can get to a point where the list of instances that we have in a 2 week period is starting to decline instead of increase,
Right.
right?
100%.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to seeing everybody next time. This is Amy and McCall, and this is 9 to 5 Nightmares.
And we talk about workplace misconduct so you can avoid it.
Exactly. Have a great week, everybody.